You can go and work for a Google with your IT education, and you can just be a blind cog in the wheel doing what they tell you to do and cashing checks. Or you can
So, those are some things that we have to touch on because the conversation that we're having is about education. And we have been miseducated. I think most of us can agree that we have been miseducated, misguided. And so now we have to get to our children because our children are in the future. What do we do? Do we completely remove ourselves from their systems? But if we can't, so I know some people say that they have to put their children in public school. If we can't, then what is the solution there?
So here's the thing. Uh, Ideally, yes, remove ourselves, complete independence. But here's the thing, that's not realistic. What is realistic is to say this: until we get a critical mass institutionally, until we get critical mass in education, in medicine, in the legal system, in business, in commerce, finance, farming, etc. What we have an opportunity to do is be the spook who sat by the door. You can go and work for a Google with your IT education, and you can just be a blind cog in the wheel doing what they tell you to do and cashing checks. Or you can go work for Google, like the spook who sat by the door, and say, let me observe these processes. Let me observe these systems of checks and balances. Let me make notes so that I can take this from here and go apply it on my own company or in a black owned company for the benefit of black people. So I think of it as like an insurgency. We have an opportunity to be insurgents. We can get paid to learn skills and institutional and organizational management in their systems. But if you have your black mind and you're doing it in a black way, then you can take those skills and those experiences, save you a little piece of money, and then go apply it in a black way. That's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it, like how a lot of us like to say, "Oh, black-owned businesses. I be having any bad experiences with black-owned businesses." You know, half of the thing is like we want to do for ourselves, but we have never worked in a small business and observe what it takes to run a small business.
Mm-hmm.
And a boy who grows up working for his dad's family-owned business of 4 employees, and they do $200,000 of revenue every year. It's a small business, but he's gonna observe how to run the business, how to manage accounts receivable, how to manage accounts payable, how to do inventory sourcing, et cetera, et cetera. We sometimes just start a business with no background and no experience and no training and no nothing, just the will and the desire to do our own thing, but we haven't learned or observed what it took. So I say, if you can get it without being in the system, then get it without being in the system. But if you got to be in the system, just don't be a mindless slave. Go in there, be a spy, be an insurgent, be the spook who sat by the door. Take everything you can from them. Exploit them. Don't let them exploit you. You know, does that make sense?
Hey, if you're gonna be the spook, you can't go stay over there. Nobody lives behind enemy lines. You have
No,
to
but the spook who sat by the door worked for you seen it.
return
You read
home.
the book. I know you read the book. You read the book, didn't
Yeah,
you? Yeah. He worked for the CIA for 4 short years and then he left.
he ain't stay. That's
He
my
didn't say,
point.
and that's what I said. I said, go work for them
Yeah,
and then leave and then go apply it in the black space.
because I know I had a professor. We call him the bench warmer because he's not really worthy of being a professor, but he calls himself the spook who sat by the door because he's like, yeah, we up here in these white universities, da, 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 da. And you know what? I have no illusions about where I go to school and how schools are still plantations because they're not our institutions. I don't have any illusions about that. Some people pretend to be the spook who sat by the door so that as a defense mechanism. And I would say if you're going to be the spook who sat by the door, then you're building your home base so you can ultimately go home and be with your people, and your people can exist independently of the people who they are now dependent on. So you know, I'm all for the spook who sat by the door. I just also understand people use that as a veil, you know,
Right. Like you can't be the spook who sat by the door and you just put 20
you're
years.
like, yeah, man, I've been over here for 20 years. I'm the spook who sat by the door. I'm an insurgent, but
Right.
but you know, you
But you got tenure.
would you build outside of their institution for your people? You know, I mean, I'm not saying people can't do both. They can't do many things. I'm not saying that. You can do many things, but do many things. You know, sometimes people pretend like they're doing many things when they're really only doing one. So, I mean, I know people like to play like they can do both, and some people can, but you have to be honest with yourself about where your loyalties and where your dedication lies. And if your dedication is to your people, then I think your actions will speak for themselves, and you won't have to call yourself who's the spook who sat by the door. You know what I mean? I mean, some people. I think people who are the spook who sat by the door, they don't run around telling people I'm the spook who sat by the door. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. They don't give away their position.
Yeah.